Hi everyone, welcome back to Coffee, Books, and Rain. I'm Rachel with my coffee, with my books, and my reviews, and no rain, but that's okay. We have another lovely day, and I am just relaxing inside with the boys. I was doing a little bit of crafting earlier, just kind of taking it easy. It's my last day of my 3-day weekend and just kind of winding down before I start into a work week. But today we are going to talk about a book called Nightmerica. It is Corruptions of the American Dream. Now, I picked this up because I did realize that it was going to potentially be commentary on the political climate of the time, which I was interested in seeing what this author had to say, but also because it was listed under horror, and I was like, okay, fair enough. Let's see what you have. And so this book is by Amanda Worthington, and it's getting pretty decent reviews right now. It did release on July 4th of 2025, so I thought that was a pretty interesting date to release because of the content within. So let's just dive into the summary and we'll go from there. James Truslow Adams coined the term American Dream in his book The Epic of America. Therein, it was defined as the hope for a better, richer, and happier life for all of our citizens of every rank, which is the greatest contribution we have as of yet made to the thought and welfare of the world. This vision has yet to be attained. One day I'm going to learn to read, I swear. The American dream, as it currently exists, functions as the carrot, urging us forward in the desperate race to stabilize, build, and thrive while we still have breath in our overworked and under-maintained bodies. The time of reckoning is upon us. It's time for a greater contribution, one in which a diversity of voices is amplified rather than silenced. Stories for this collection will fall into one of three areas: life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Those inalienable rights we were promised at this nation's founding. This anthology seeks to tell tales that emphasize the ways in which interwoven systems fail, all but the most privileged among us. This failure might come in the form of poor prenatal care, lack of access to quality health care, inability to progress in one's field, racism, sexism, ableism. The sky's the limit. It is approximately 244 pages in paperback, and it was first published July 4th of 2025. Now, it does seem Amanda Worthington has approximately 9 books published underneath her name. I do not know if other books also contain similar content, but this one was, you can tell this author is probably pretty angry at the current state of the American dream, so to speak. I did not realize that it was going to be such a political statement, and I don't think it's any one way leaning one way or the other. I do just think it is commentary on the economy and just kind of everything in general. It is also a collection of short stories and some poetry as well. I did not realize that when I picked it up. However, I was pleasantly surprised. The stories are not linked within, however, they do have a similar theming, as the summary says, with the themes of life, liberty, and that pursuit of happiness that we all, at least here in America, as well as I think a lot of people in the world, do work towards attaining. It's just the freedom to be yourself, trying to maintain a sense of happiness and life, liberty, and all the rest. Um, it's um, it is kind of a statement against the American dream as being an illusion, as this one particular person says, and I think that's just a great way to say it. Milt Theo said that in his very first sentence in his review. So I do want to just make that clear that he's the one who, I guess, said that. I hate kind of saying something if I see it and then kind of, you ever see something that someone said and then you say it without kind of realizing it? So that's why I try to make sure that I recognize where those kind of words come from. But I think the very first story in this particular book that so I didn't realize, like I said, when I picked it up, that it was going to be short stories. So I get this story where this company is going in and evicting this old woman who's been in her house. This old woman, they are just pretty much, they've got police in there taking her out. She's made her payments, but she hasn't maintained her insurance. But they're like, well, this is for the best. We're just here to, take care of the neighborhood. We're just going to gentrify it pretty much. And so it was making me quite angry, because it seemed as though the insurance company might have been in cahoots as well, because the insurance company had stopped, and insurance companies, it seemed at large, had also stopped kind of covering this particular area. And I know some people in LA and California, just due to fires, were also struggling to find some insurance coverage due to fire catastrophes, not too long before the fires started happening. I want to say last year before. Well, so this story kind of struck a nerve, and at first I was kind of like, ugh, I don't even want to read this. This is so, they were, the bad guys were winning, and I was like, this is so hateful. I hate this so much, and kept reading, because of course, it was just like that, the greed of society was winning, and I didn't like that. Well, again, it was that level of horror that made me uncomfortable, but I kept reading, and I'm glad I did, because the I don't think it's a spoiler, but they get their comeuppance. So the one of the, I guess, developers, he gets a call that this old woman is released because the prisons are so full. It's like, oh darn this. And he's like, well, we couldn't hold her because the prisons are so full. And he's like, oh man, you couldn't do me a solid and just hang on to her. And he's like, dude, no, I'm doing you a solid by calling you. And so he's like, okay, fine. So he goes back to the house, and the guy that he had sent to the house is not there. And he's like, okay, man, he's like calling out for him, and there's plants everywhere. And so he's looking all over the house, and he sees the guy's cell phone sitting there. He can definitely tell the guy has been there. Well, he starts calling out for him some more. Ultimately, he's led down to the basement, where the guy is wrapped up in some roots from some of these plants, and very, what I would call, Little Shop of Horror style. This guy has been more or less consumed by some of these plants, and this construction guy, or this developer guy, gets his comeuppance because the old woman sneaks up behind him, and she's like, well, I tried to tell you that my children, my roots run deep, so to speak. So that's just story number one. But from there, I was kind of hooked, because that's the level of kind of horror that we get. There is, not in every story, but there is kind of this sense of supernatural, like in some, and but some of them have a sense of poetic justice as well. So I thought it was kind of pretty cool. Now, this one particular person said it's not a political anthology, and I think that's probably pretty true. Because again, I did say that it's not politically inclined one way or the other. I think it's just commentary on kind of the kind of current climate that we're all living in right now. And you may feel like one story talks to you, and you may feel like none of the stories talk to you. Like they just may feel like they happen to other people, and that's perfectly fine, because I can't remember if I felt as though that any of them were like hit home for me, but I thought, could feel as though maybe they could happen to people that I knew. There's one gay couple that go hiking and encounter some individuals that they get scared of. And there is one story that, let me think about it for just a second. Oh gosh, what was it about? Because it was just on the tip of my tongue. I'll come back to it. But oh, it was the lactating story. So there's this new mother, and it seems as though maybe the dad's not in the picture or something of that nature. Maybe but the mother-in-law seems to be in the picture. Anyway, so she goes to this lactation specialist. Anyway, things go really weird with this lactation specialist. This is another one that's got a kind of supernatural paranormal thing, and yet there is a part of it that I'm like, oh my gosh, I feel like people act like this because I think some new mothers do struggle with the idea. Now, I am not a mom except to two fur kids, and I know and I understand that parents of true children sometimes do not recognize that as being a true parent. I get it. I can't have kids, so I get it. I'm sorry. I don't fit the mold of being a parent. But this particular individual, she is on the fence about whether she wants to start formula versus breastfeeding. And so she goes to a lactation specialist because she's struggling a bit. And the lactation specialist is, of course, like very much trying to tell her, oh no, formula is bad. And so, like, all of this sort of stuff. Well, the girl really feels as though formula would really help her a lot. Just quality of life in general. So, and then she also feels like her baby could potentially also benefit, just simply because then she maybe could get more into her, because she herself as the mother is not maybe producing enough. But anyway, so that story kind of was very interesting, where it didn't resonate with me and I did not relate with it. This lactation specialist was just very much a zealot about it, and I understand that there are people like that are out there. So there are some things in this story and throughout this book that have these kind of, and now the story does take on a paranormal / supernatural undertone towards the end of it, and if you read it, you'll understand. So, if you're willing to dive into this rabbit hole, I think you would be pleasantly surprised. I don't think this is a book that you're going to just run across very easily. I think this is one you're going to have to look for. It may be an indie publication, so you may have to look for it more on Amazon rather than in a big box store, but personally, I thought it was well worth the read if that's something that you are interested in looking for. I'm just trying to think. It is absolutely a horror anthology with, I said, like that situational state of America sort of mindset, especially with that life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness as kind of its core basis. And as Freddie said, the show must go on. But you definitely get that horrific theming in quite a few of these tales. And even in the ones that don't seem to have that supernatural, paranormal, like, atmosphere, you do still get something a bit more horrific towards the end, even if it's just in the theming of the way people are acting towards each other. So I do recommend this book. Creepy, some of them are kind of futuristic in a way. Some of them, like, there's one particular one, Austin Grad. Oh, wait. Is that what? Oh, I think this is. Oh, I'm just wondering. This one particular person was saying, I recommend this anthology for its visceral imagery, which is absolutely true. Feeding America was one that he was saying is a futuristic tale of job horror. Yeah, so I would definitely say that that's true. It's unsettling in a lot of different ways. And like I said, some of these may feel like they could hit close to home if they didn't have some of those elements of supernatural paranormal. So, if you are able to ride that fine line and are able to kind of put that into perspective, because again, it can be unsettling to hit that close to home, but still be able to suspend enough belief because of those maybe demonic elements, maybe some of these people are just absolutely horrific and you just know people like that. Who knows? Some people are going to be zealots in these stories or think that capitalism is the best thing ever, best thing since sliced bread. So you're going to have those people in this book as well. But let's just see what you think. I thought this book was highly, highly interesting, so I am really glad that I picked it up. And for the fact that it came out on the 4th of July, I thought that was very aptly timed for the book to be called Nightmerica. But with all of that being said, I do want to thank you all so much for tuning in. Thank you for liking and subscribing. I'm not releasing this episode on the 4th of July. I just didn't feel, I guess, comfortable with doing that. I'm going to release something else on the 4th of July, I think. But I will release it a few days after, just so maybe just put a little buffer in there, I guess is what we're going to do. But I hope you will consider this book as a potential to be read. Thank you so much for joining me on this journey, and I will see you guys on the next page. Have a great one.